Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's overview and review, I'm taking a look at Campaign Fall Blau, designed by Martin Melbardis and published by Catastrophe Games. Campaign Fall Blau is a dice, card, and cube-based system designed to simulate Case Blue, the German summer offensive in 1942. Now, I have a complete playthrough that I've already posted, and then along with a recon unboxing. Check those out for a more in-depth look at the game. Otherwise, we're going to do a overview, pros and cons, and of course, my final thoughts. So let's get onto the table. In Campaign Fall Blau, you as a German player are trying to work your way through the various campaign cards, defeat the Soviet forces, and accrue victory points. You start off by looking through the general deck, selecting 3 generals. You can pick any 3 generals, the rest are set aside, and you can use them in a future game. Each of these generals is going to have a couple key things. One, you can see the number of grade cubes. Those represent their strength. Second, they're going to have special abilities. For instance, Manstein here, he's a brilliant commander. When he carries out an attack order with him, you can reroll up to 2 dice. Also, he's a fortress buster. When carrying out an attack order against a fortress, you only remove a grade cube on a natural roll of 1 as opposed to just with negatives. Garibaldi, which he's actually noticed the Italian 8th Army, so he is not a German general, but Italians were part of Operation Fall Blau. He has mobile core ability. Carrying out advance order, general may bring an additional campaign card to the front line, the cost of an additional supply. Mountain core basically has the same effect on mountains that Manstein had with fortresses. And then here you have, for instance, General Paulus. He's a logistical wizard, going to give you a bonus supply, and then he's also a fortress buster. So you pick your generals, you place them out here on the board. You're gonna put the grade cubes, amount of grade cubes on there that it says for the card. Each turn, and you can see down in the bottom right of the screen here, we have the operational calendar. There are 3 turns in each month: July, early, mid, late, July through November. Except at the end of November, the Soviet winter offensive begins, and that ends the game when you go to that turn. Each turn, you're going to ready your generals if they're exhausted. So at the very beginning, obviously they're ready to go, but every following turn, they're going to be exhausted. You go ahead and ready them. You're going to draw event cards. You're going to get 2 event cards per turn, barring special abilities that may have you draw more. Those event cards are going to do things like, say, provide Luftwaffe support. So you can play this event, and it's going to allow you to conduct a separate attack against a campaign card using 2 dice, or you can gain 2 supply. Or the events are going to be things like, a Soviet major counterattack. You'll notice it has a stop sign here, and it's in red. Those are the ones that are going to be poor for you, right? They're going to hurt you rather than help you. And they have different effects. This one, it actually acts as a campaign card that's placed on the board. Now, campaign cards, what are we talking about here? Well, this is where we get into issuing orders to the generals. So you have your event cards, which you can have a hand of 5. Besides any ones that are pinned or stay in play, such as this major counterattack. When you do the issue orders to the generals phase, each of your generals is going to want to either conduct an advance order, which they're helpfully written over here. Advance allows you to spend a supply and then move an open campaign, which you can see the unlock campaigns up here, move them down to the front line. Whichever general does it, you're going to want to place the campaign in front of him. Or you can conduct a consolidate order, which you gain 2 supply, and you also gain back a gray cube. So if you have a army or a general that's been reduced over time, that's weaker, you can do a consolidate order to regain strength and gain supply. And finally, you conduct an attack order, where, again, you exhaust your general. You're going to go ahead and spend a supply, possibly more depending on the campaign card, and you're conducting an attack against that campaign. The campaign cards themselves, very simple. They're going to have the name of the area that it is, which you can see the actual sort of the map, right? Historical map down here. You start off with Voronezh, and you work your way, towards Kalash, Vroclavgrad, Rostov, etc., working your way east, south, southeast, towards, Stalingrad, Grozny, Stavropol. The cards themselves, you're going to have victory points in the top left. It's going to have the number of Soviet cubes, these red cubes, that's the strength of it. So when you conduct an advance order, say Garibaldi does, you spend a supply, you would place Voronezh in front of him. You would then put 3 red cubes on the card. That shows its current strength. Now, in that turn, you may spend supply, reorganize the front line, maybe move von Manstein in front, so now von Manstein may want to launch an attack, or maybe just a future turn where your general is available. You will then conduct an attack. You're rolling dice according to the number of gray cubes you have, right? Number of German cubes. That's how many dice you roll, plus any special abilities, any event cards. Remember, we had Luftwaffe support, which does a separate attack, or you have, say, Hungarian allies. Play this card during an attack in order to gain 2 bonus dice. So the game separates them. These are my dice, but it does have separate colored dice. So you would do, let's say, 4 German dice, and you use Hungarian allies. That's 2 bonus dice. So they're separate colors. You're going to roll them. 3 or higher are hits. If you are fighting a fortress or a mountain terrain, which on the actual campaign card, it'll show that symbol. For instance, Rostov here is a fortress. You get a -1 to your rolls. So 3 or higher, after modifications, are going to be hits. Each hit, generally speaking, eliminates a cube, unless you have maybe a Panzer army, and then a 6 is going to eliminate 2 Soviet cubes. Once that campaign has all of its cubes eliminated, you get 2 things. One, you're going to go ahead and discard it. You're going to put it next to the completed campaigns, but you're going to get the amount of victory points that are on the top left. So in this case, you get 1. And then also in the bottom of the card, this is very important, you're going to see what it unlocks. So by completing this campaign, you're unlocking Voloshigrov and Rostov. So you place this under completed. You have the lock campaigns deck. Go ahead and find Voloshigrov, Rostov. Go ahead and place them up here above the unlock campaigns ribbon. They are now available for generals to conduct advance orders. You advance, conduct an advance order, you move it down to the front line, put cubes on it, you attack it, use special events, it's completed, you unlock more, you gain victory points, etc. You work your way through the actual Case Blue Fall Blau campaign. At the end of the game, you work through each turn, right? Each turn you're doing, you're writing your generals, you're drawing your event cards, you're issuing orders to them, and then technically at the end of each turn there is a local Soviet counterattack, which is any campaigns that are sitting here that happen to have cubes on them. The Soviets will roll that many dice and attack the general that's across from them. So say Rostov here has 2 dice. He would roll 2. He doesn't hit on 3 or higher. Thankfully, he only hits on 1. Go ahead and roll. Oh, that's 1 hit. You would eliminate a cube. Which in this case, Manstein has no cubes, so he is now actually removed from the game. Okay. Accruing victory points. To get to the very end, you're going to check your victory point total, right? So your whole goal in this game is defeating these campaigns, unlocking them, defeating them. As this is happening, remember I mentioned spending supply, right, for the advance and attack. So your supply is dropping, and then you're also taking hits when you attack. If you roll a 1, you take a hit, or during those counterattacks, you take hits, or in the event deck, there's going to be things like a Soviet air attack. There's going to be those, you saw the counterattack, right, major counterattack. You're going to be suffering losses to your forces. You do not want to run out of cubes because then that general is eliminated from the game entirely. So you will have to consolidate to get your forces back, and you're also going to have to do that to gain more supply. But remember, you have a very limited amount of turns to get before the Soviet winter offensive is launched. That was a quick overview of the game. Covered most of the basics of it. I have a complete playthrough if you want to see like an in-depth explanation and actual full playthrough of the game. But otherwise, I think that's it for the overview. Let's go on to my pros and cons. As usual, cons first. All right, first thing, the amount of luck and randomness can be a downside. You know, I've talked about this before. I love throwing handfuls of dice, right? But I like it when each time I'm rolling those dice, right, I'm tossing a handful of dice, it's just one of many rolls in a turn, right? Let's say it's a hex encounter game, and I know there's going to be a dozen combats. Each time I'm rolling dice, but really, each one of those is only 1/12 of, right, the action I'm going to take that turn. Well, in campaign Fall Blau, you only have 3 generals, and they can only conduct 1 action each per turn. So outside of an event allowing you to refresh a general, I think Blitzkrieg does that. That means you only get 3 actions per turn. That means each attack is extremely important. And if you happen to roll poorly, it's effectively a wasted action. Now, there are ways to mitigate this, as you have events that grant you bonus dice to roll. I talked about that. And events and then general abilities that allow you to reroll dice at times. But those resources aren't infinite. They don't happen during every combat. There are going to be times that you roll poorly and you kind of feel like you were robbed. The second con isn't so much a negative, it's just a reality of such a simple system. There may not be enough meat on the bone for everyone. The history is all over the cards, and from the pictures to the flavor text at the bottom of them. I think the game feels somewhat dramatic when you're actually playing due to that art and that flavor text, right? You kind of can get involved in it, and you're looking at the names of the areas, and you look at the map over here, and you can kind of see where your forces are advancing, right? You kind of imagine that a little bit, that, these operations, and you're working your way south and east. But, the reality is the system, it doesn't really feel like it's simulating World War II Eastern Front. It just feels like a game that has that theme on it. I think of a game like Flashpoint South China Sea from GMT. That's one I did a review of, playthrough review, etc. That game has a very smooth design from Harold Buchanan. But as I pointed out in that review, you could basically paste any theme on top and the game would feel the same. Campaign Fall Blau isn't quite to that level. It does feel there is more theme and more character to the game, but it's also not going to make you feel like you're completely immersed in the history. Okay, that's it for the cons. On to the pros. First off, the game feels very clean, from the mechanics to the game's physical production. Now, on the production side, the only negative thing I really noticed, and it is the back of these cards all say Conquest Fall Blau, but the name of the game is actually Campaign Fall Blau. Zero impact on gameplay, just kind of funny. And the components themselves, they're not going to wow you. These are my dice. The dice that come with the game are very, very simple, regular dice. The cards, they're not linen finished, anything like that. They're just fine. All the production quality is fine. And more importantly, it does get the job done. However, the design itself, it's very elegant. It feels like there's basically no fluff. You start off by choosing 3 generals, right, out of a deck of 8. Each general has their own unique abilities and varying strengths. They then each get, 1 action to either bring campaigns to the front line, you conduct an attack, or you consolidate, recover supplies, and strength. However, you have a very limited number of turns to complete those campaigns and earn those victory points. And so the game also gives you kind of a push your luck feeling. Do you keep your generals and their armies nice and strong with lots of, consolidate actions, but then you're not clearing campaigns very quickly? Or do you conduct more frequent attacks, which allows you to possibly complete campaigns faster, but then you wear down your strength, which makes both your attacks less effective and increases the chance the general could be eliminated. Just an excellent design here from Martin Melbardis. Secondly, replayability. Always important for a solitaire game, is very good. The fact that you only use 3 out of 8 generals in any given game is a really nice touch. And they just feel unique enough to make it seem like you're actually choosing a particular general. You can replay the game and, you can change 1 general, right? Just swap out 1. You could play 3 entirely different ones, just mix it up. Now, no, the campaign cards don't change. And, they don't really change the order either of them being unlocked because it's based on defeated campaign cards. But I definitely feel like you can play this game over and over. In fact, I did. The game also includes optional events to make the game also includes optional events to make the game harder. Not sure why you would want to use those, but they are there. And also there's a deck of mission cards. These mission cards add some variety to the game by giving you specific goals to accomplish, such as eliminate a certain number of Soviet units in a month. And they can also make the game a little easier as you get victory points for completing them, but there's no penalty for failing them. Although technically, you have to earn more victory points if you're using the mission cards versus if you're not. Something like this, not necessary to enjoy the game at all. I primarily play just sort of the basic game without these add-ons. but it's a nice addition to the box. All right, that's it for my pros and cons. Let's end with my final thoughts. Campaign Fall Blau really surprised me. It's such a simple game at its core, with only 6 pages of rules. And I thought it was going to be too light for me, but it wasn't. It was actually very rewarding. The system is smooth and elegant. What action should each general take on a turn? How and when should I use my limited event cards? Which general should be sent after which campaign card? You are constantly given choices to make, but they are simple enough that you won't be paralyzed into inaction. You'll do what you think is best, and then if you're like me, you'll look back later and question, could I have done better? Which will make you want to set the game back up and play again. And since it plays so quickly, in only about 45 minutes, that is easy to do. The theme can get lost at times if you focus only on, rolling the dice and removing cubes. But look at the pictures on the various cards, read the text, and remember what this system is trying to portray. Sometimes you don't need 30 pages of rules to play a war game, to experience a part of history, or to give you a satisfying experience, because that's exactly what Campaign Fall Blau does. All right, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please let me know what you think of my video and this game in the comments below. And until next time, everyone, later.